Why the अच्छा let's try to understand what is the research design is. Uh, the research design is a framework. It's a framework or the blueprint for conducting the marketing research. Basically, to start with the research, it's very important for anybody to understand that we need to have a proper planning. And to do proper planning, it requires to resolve all the nitty-gritties of doing marketing research. So, one has to have a firm roadmap in order to execute the marketing research plan. And this roadmap is also called as a plan sheet. It's also called as other research design. So basically, if the research design is good, then there is a lot of probability that your research outcome will also be much better. So research design is nothing but it's a blueprint or a framework as to how we can conduct the research. Okay, so that is the research plan. Now, talking about more on research plan, research design, this also constitutes the blueprint for collection, measurement, and analysis of data. For that matter, the research design is consisting of certain elements of collecting the data, measuring the data, and analysis of which is a method which we use to analyze the data. And this research design aids the researcher in allocating limited resources by posing crucial choices in methodology. What it means to say here is, in research design, it poses a certain challenge, a crucial challenge or crucial choice for the researchers so that they can allocate the resources properly. Which means to say that every research design has its own budget, and this budget has to be properly allocated in such a way that you entirely execute the research completely. Okay, so that is the intention of research design. Here, for that matter, to collect this data, we might even use primary data collection or secondary data collection. Primary data collection is nothing but collecting the research data fresh from the market. Secondary data collection is collecting already existing data. So now, which works little cheaper here? That one has to understand and figure it out. One has to understand and figure it out. Now, there are many methods of sampling as well. For example, population sampling is one method where the survey is taken for entirely all the students. So even that can be adopted. Otherwise, we can do a convenience sampling, which will save a lot of resources, and it will also save a lot of time as well. So what I'm trying to say here is research design consists of lot of elements, lot of choices, wherein the researcher will exercise his or her own choices based on the kind of budget or based on the kind of time that he or she has. Going to the third point, research design is nothing but it's a plan, structure of investigation, so conceived as to obtain answers to research questions. The plan is overall scheme or the program of the research. It includes an outline for which the investigator will do from writing hypothesis and operational information to final analysis of data. Research design can also be defined as different methods, different ways. These are different definitions of research design, friends. And in this particular definition, what it says here is, it's a plan and structure of investigation. Okay, so what is the research? Basically, to start off with the research, what we do here is we come up with a hypothesis. We presume that certain things are to be true, and then we do try to collect a lot of information, a lot of data, and then we try to prove or disprove whatever that we have already assumed. So this is like a structure wherein a scheme of program which has one activity, and after that there is another activity, after that there is another activity, and things like that. So typically a literature review is followed by first the problem definition, then literature review, then after that what researcher does is, based on the research problem and research objective and literature review, they will come up with the research questions. Now these research questions are addressed by hypotheses. Now these hypotheses will be tested after collecting the information, and then the final conclusion will be made. For example, let's suppose we are trying to do a small research wherein we want to try to establish the increase in the advertising expenses is directly proportional to increase in the sales. If this is the kind of hypothesis, now what I am doing here is I am setting a hypothesis, which means that I am trying to assume something to be true. What is that? That is, the expenditure of advertisement is directly proportional to sales, which means to say that if you invest more in advertisement, so proportionately there is an increment in the sales as well. That's what it says. Now, on a surface of it, it looks very. It is just an assumption. We don't know whether it is to be true or not, but we need to find out whether it is going to be true or not by conducting a research. Now you record the sales. You record the sales before advertising and after the advertising. Then you record the expenditure over the period of time done for the advertisement. How much money that is being spent on the advertisement, how much are in the sales figures. Now you collect this data, this is the secondary data, collect it and then plot it onto the graph diagram, or plot it in the form of curves and see how is there any fluctuation in the sales curve, because of which, if is there any fluctuation in the sales curve just because there is an increment or decrement in the sales. So now what we are trying to say here is the research means nothing but we hypothesize something to be true, we assume something to be true, and then we do certain analysis, we collect data, we do analysis, and then we finally come to a conclusion whether whatever the analysis that we have done is true or not. Research design expresses both the structure of the research problem, the framework, the organization, the configuration of the relationship among the variables of the study, and plan of investigation used to obtain empirical evidence on these relationships. So what basically it is trying to say here is the research design is consisting of various factors or uh, various variables in question. See, basically, business research consists of studies of different variables. Now, we might understand, we might try to understand what are the variables are. What are variables could be? A variable is an entity. Okay, it's an item whose value keeps changing. For example, sales is a variable. Okay, so because the sales value keeps on changing, so sales is a variable. Advertising is expenditure is also a variable, and customer satisfaction is also a variable. Employee satisfaction is also a variable, and things like that. So these are set of variables, wherein these variables, the set of variables, we would like to see, is there any kind of an interlink between these different types of variables that we have? Okay, so this kind of a plan within which a relationship between the different variables is studied. That is what the research design does. For example, is there any kind of a relationship between height and intelligence? We take the height of 60 students and we compare the intelligence. Intelligence is measured with the help of IQ. Now we plot IQ on the X diagram, X axis, and we also plot height on the Y axis. And we see, is there any kind of a relationship between height and intelligence? And things like that. So this is a kind of research that we do in business. Okay. What are the essentials of research design? So some of the essentials that we need to speak here are these ones. So the first one is it's a research design. Research design needs to have some kind of a time. Okay, so it's a series of activity undertaken by the researcher over the period of time. Okay, so now in order to explain this, now research will start with a problem definition. Let's suppose the problem could be anything. The problem could be related to sales. The sales are declining. Now we need to figure out why the sales are declining, and at the same time we need to come up with a prescription for how to arrest the sales decline. And for that matter, we need to find out what are the possible reasons why the sales are declining. There could be n number of reasons for which the sales could be declining. Number one, see, erratic price fluctuations could be one reason. You know, the pricing is not being done properly by your marketing department. So therefore the sales are declining. In order to say this, or you can say in such a way that usually if you decrease the price, there will be an increment in the sales. Okay, and we have to say this within the context of competitors as well. Now, when you are increasing the price, at the same time, if the competitor is decreasing the price, then you will get more decrement in the sales. So the competitor's action also plays a very important role in determining whether your product is being sold properly or not. And second reason is whether your pricing is done properly or not. Even could be a second reason as well. Thirdly, the pricing, apart from these two, you might want to understand whether the promotion is the problem, whether the distribution is the problem. We try to figure out all these things. We need to understand all these problems, why the sales is not happening. Now, we come up with certain objectives to study this problem. Say, the sales are not happening, maybe we need to study the pricing part of it. We need to study the sales people's contribution. We need to analyze our rising with respect to competitors. So these are some of the objectives. Now we have to set the objectives. Secondly, firstly, we need to come up with the problem. Secondly, we need to come up with the objectives. And thirdly, we need to plan. We do some kind of a literature review based on this. What are the possible reasons why the sales are declining? You do a literature review based on the records that is there within the company itself. And after that, you come up with the research design. After that, you execute the research design, you go into the field and then try to collect the information. And then from there onwards, we try to figure out, you analyze, then you make a recommendations. So research is nothing but it's a whole entire gamut of different types of activity, and these activities are bound by time. Alright. The second one is the research design is a plan always based on research questions. Now, most of the researchers are driven by the objectives. What are the objectives? What we need to find out at the end of the day? Do we want to find out the reasons for decline in the sales, or do we want to come up with the recommendations to arrest the sales decline? So what are your objectives that we need to define? Now, after having defined objectives, each objectives will come up with certain research questions. Now, these certain questions, say for example, I want to know decline in the sales. Now, there will be a question on this to the customer saying that, are you very happy with the pricing that has been offered by the company? Yes or no? Second question will be, are you aware of this product? Third question will be like, how do you rate this product with respect to your competitor's product? Now, these are the different sets of questions that we ask in order to understand the customer's perspective. So that is why it has been said here that these plans, the research plans, are always based on the research questions. And at the end of the day, at the end of the research, we need to address these research questions very systematically. And whatever the conclusion that we come up with for this research questions, these conclusions should address whatever the research question that is being posed. Okay, so that is what it says. A plan, it's a plan always based on the research questions. And research design is also a guide for selecting the sources and the types of information. It's also a guide for selecting the sources and types of information. Now let's suppose what sort of sources, there is a mention of sources here. See, there is a mention of sources here because we need to collect a lot of information. We need to collect information from the, different sources for that matter. The customer could be a source of information. The competitor customer is a source of information. The salespeople are the sources of information here. The market share of the competitor is also a source of information. The information related to the price fluctuations, that's also a source of information. The amount of money that is being spent on advertisement or on activities that have been taken for creating the awareness, even that could be also a source of information. Now, these are the different types of sources that have to be mentioned in the research design. So, that's the reason why it says that the research design is also a guide for selecting the resources. For example, another kind of source that we do find out is the literature review. In literature review, we try to figure out, we try to understand what are the different, let's suppose you're doing some kind of a research on population and whether the population and GDP of the country, do they go hand in hand. Now, to do this research, we have to depend upon the sources that are being given by the government. Okay, so we'll have to go to the sources like census department. We need to find out the historical GDP data. We need to find out the historical inflation data. We need to find out the historical employment data. So what is happening here is what we are trying to do, our researcher is trying to do, is they are trying to collect the sources. They are trying to collect the information from different sources. So the research design consists of different possible sources from where the researchers can gather information. Apart from that, research design is a framework for specifying the relationship among the study variables. Now, as we already mentioned earlier, the research is nothing but we are trying to understand the different relationship between different variables here. Okay, we can talk about different researches. For example, is employee satisfaction is related to customer satisfaction? In order to say that, I mean, is the employees of the organization, are they very happy enough? If they are very happy enough, then is that leading to a good customer satisfaction as well? It has been said many times that a happy employee will produce a happy customer. A happy employee will produce 30 new happy customers. So how do I prove empirically, scientifically, with backup from the data that there is a connection between employee satisfaction and customer satisfaction? And in order to do this, what we do basically here is we draft certain questions to measure the employee satisfaction variable. Employee satisfaction variable is one variable. Second variable here is the customer satisfaction is another variable. Now these are the two variables. This is what is the framework. So now this is the framework for specifying the relationship among the study variables. I want to find out if there is any kind of a relationship between these two things. And in order to do that, I try to measure these different variables. Okay, and then I quantify these different variables and try to analyze. We'll put them into SPSS and we'll try to see if there is some kind of a connection between these two variables, yes or no. Now, the research design is nothing but it's a procedural outline for every research activity. What it means to say here is, research design, research activity is nothing but, it's nothing but as we earlier mentioned, already discussed, research activity is nothing but it's a description of different activities, the time-bound activities that we undertake, so that we can come up with a solution. So that is what, these are some of the essentials of research design. We shall just try to find out what are the different components of the research design here. Now, let's try to understand what are the different components. First one is we got to have the design. There are three types of design we have: design, the exploratory, descriptive, and causal phase of the research. Now, what it means? It means to say that exploratory means you try to explore things. We don't have a concrete evidence of something, and we are trying to explore. Say, for example, what are the reasons for decline in the sales? Now, what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to explore what are the possible reasons why my sales are declining. It could lead me to n number of reasons. The sales could be declining because of pricing. The sales could be declining because the employees are not performing very well. The sales could be declining because the promotion, the advertisement has been not done properly, or sales could be declining because the customers are not very happy. Sales could be declining because the customer service is not there. So these could be the n number of reasons. Okay. Now, if this kind of a research that you would like to take, let's suppose I want to find out the decline in the sales, so then you need to adopt a research design called as exploratory research. Exploratory research talks about exploring things. We go in depth to these things and then try to explore whether certain phenomena or certain activity, what could be the reason for that. Another example for exploratory research is unhappy employees. Okay, so what it means to say? What it means to say? It means to say that what it means to say. It means to say that you know the employees are not happy about certain things. Uh, the employees are not very happy about certain things. What it means to say here is we are trying to figure out why the employees are not very happy. This could be a number of reasons to it. One reason could be the compensation. Whether the employees are adequately compensated. If it is yes, yes, otherwise no. That could be one possible reason. Second possible reason could be whether these employees are getting promoted over the period of time. Is there any kind of a career growth that these people are having? If it is yes, yes, then otherwise no. I mean, we are just trying to figure it out. Third could be, what are the other benefits? Employees doesn't look only for the promotion, whether they don't only look for the compensation. They would look for some kind of an interpersonal relationship among the colleagues. Now, we need to find out whether the employee satisfaction is happening because of poor interpersonal relationship among the colleagues. If it is so, then why? If it is not, then why? I mean, we need to find that out. So, there is a plethora of reasons for which employee could be dissatisfied. Okay, so that is what we do. This exploratory research is all about that. We are trying to explore things. Okay, we are trying to find out, explore certain things. Huh? So that is what is exploratory research means to say. And second one is the descriptive research. What is descriptive research? Descriptive research is nothing but, we're trying to describe certain phenomena. Describing existing condition is what is descriptive. Descriptive is nothing but, suppose say for example, a company wants to launch a new product into the market. Now this new product that is being launched into the market, to what sort of customers that it should be targeted to? We in the marketing, we talk about segmentation, targeting and positioning. Now we are doing segmentation, targeting and positioning in order to reduce the marketing cost. We are not trying to sell something to everybody. We are not manufacturing something and that product or service is for everybody. It doesn't work like that. Because of many competitors' products are into the market, and each of these products addresses certain category of people. Now, I need to find out what are the possible features of my customer. For example, I'm trying to come up with a phone. Now, who are the possible customers for my phone? We need to define that out. So we need to find out that the phones, the customers for my phones are youngsters. Somebody who is between 25 to 35, somebody who is having a decent job, somebody who is married, and somebody who is savvy and things like that. So these are my target customers. Okay. So what I am trying to do here is I am trying to describe the existing target customers. That is what is known as descriptive research. That is what is known as the descriptive research. And then the third phase is called the causal phase of the research. The causal phase of the research. Causal phase of the research is nothing but we want to see what is the cause for the research. What is the cause for certain kind of activity that has happened? What is the cause? Now, what is the causal research? Causal phase is, suppose say for example, as we earlier mentioned here, that in industry, if you see very holistically from the top, and if you have a bird's eye view at it, everything is dependent on each other, and it's a very complex process. It's a very complex process. It's a very complex process because a lot of other factors, a lot of things are influencing the business. Basically, a lot of things are trying to influence the business then and there itself. Now, if you consider, let's suppose the increase in the Sensex. Okay, so let's talk about a finance project here. And according to this plan, we want to find out plethora of things which are influencing an increment in the Sensex. Now, what are the causes for increment in the Sensex? Now, what is the causal relationship between different factors and the Sensex? A sudden influx of foreign direct investment could be a cause that would lead to sudden increment in Sensex. That would be one causal research. Another causal research could be suddenly a pandemic has an attack on the country and the whole GDP has come down, and as a result of that, the country's economy will come down. Okay, so the lockdown and its implications on the GDP, causal research. A causal research between the harmony between the parents and the emotional stability of the child. That could be the causal research, causal phase of the research. So there are plethora of things for doing the research. Now, second one is, what are the components? What are the components for doing the research design? So in this components of research design, we need to explicitly mention what are the types of information that we require as well. So information required would be company's records, the previous records. Information required would be the customers profiling, the competitors, the detailing and context detailing, and things like that. Competition, the customer, the context, the collaborators. So we are trying to collect a lot of information about different stakeholders who are involved in the business, and that is what is the information needed. We probably need the customer information. We probably need the information from the different suppliers. We probably need the information from the competitors about their pricing, about their advertisement expenditure. So these are some of the information that is required. So going forward, we need to specify the measurement and scaling procedure as well. So in research design, we need to specify how you are going to measure different variables. How you are going to measure different variables. Let's suppose I am going to measure the different variables such as employee satisfaction. So how are you going to come up with employee satisfaction? What questions we are trying to measure employee satisfaction? That has to be mentioned. Employee satisfaction can be measured through direct questions by asking, if the customers are really very happy about the product, if it is yes, yes, otherwise no. So employee satisfaction can be measured with the help of asking some contextual questions like, do you find this product very reliable? So if the answer is yes, then the employee is satisfied, the customer is satisfied. Do you find this product is reliable? Do you find this product is very durable? Do you find this product is replaceable? Do you find this particular product is repairable? Okay, so such kind of questions. If you ask the customer, then he would give his own reply. Now you come up with a consolidated index of all these questions in the form of customer satisfaction. And that is what is customer satisfaction that we talk about here. Alright, so we go to the next one. We need to measure, and then we do scaling as well. We have different types of scalings here in order to measure different questions. One such scaling that we study very oftenly is known as Likert scale. Another question scaling is dichotomous scales, comparative scales. I know there are different types of questions, different types of scales. We will study different types of scales in future classes. Construct and pretest a questionnaire or an item appropriate for data collection. So what we are trying to do here in this case is we are trying to come up with a questionnaire, and we have to draft the questionnaire, and this questionnaire has to be shown to the expert. Upon expert approval, what we can do here is we can just upload these questions on the Google form, and we can send this Google form to n number of people, either through Gmail or through WhatsApp, and you can ask them their opinion on these questionnaire. Okay, so that is what is research design consists of. So research design also consists of sampling process and sample size. Now, one thing you have to understand here, that whenever you are trying to collect information, we cannot collect it from everyone. Now let's suppose we are doing a small research, and the research consists of trying to understanding the customer satisfaction. Now, in order to understand the customer satisfaction, we cannot go and ask each and every customer. Will it be possible? I don't think it will be possible, because the customers will be spread, they will not be very reachable, and due to many other practical reasons, it's very difficult for anybody for that matter to understand. To track even the customer is very difficult, let alone taking the survey from this customer. Tracking the customer for FMCG product in itself is a very Herculean task. So now, given such a situation, it's very, very difficult for anybody to do a market research covering the entire population. So let's suppose we have 60 students in the class, and I want to do a small research on trying to understand whether my teaching is good or not. So I cannot ask each and every question about these to all 60 people, because all 60 people may not be available at any given point of time. So what I would do is I would choose some amount of students, not entirely 60. Out of 60, I would choose about, say, 15 students or 20 students. Now this 20 is the sample. This 20, I should select this 20 in such a way that these 20 should represent those 60 people. Suppose, say, for example, I want to do a research completely, I want to understand what you people are thinking about my teaching, so then I would choose the 20 students in such a way that those 20 students would represent the entire 60 students. Now, there are different methods of choosing those students. So that is what is known as sampling process. The number of subjects that we need to have is known as the sample. Now, how much should be my sample size? That is again, there is a method for determining the sample size as well. Now, if the population size is more, then in that case, your sample size will also be automatically more. Now, there are different conditions here. Now, whether my population that is in question if this population is an infinite population or a finite population, that we need to find out. What do you mean by infinite population? Infinite population is a population which is uncountable. For example, the number of stars, the population of India, the population of the world, the number of people who have bought Colgate in today's. That's totally infinite. So now, what sort of sampling we should choose when we are talking about an infinite sample? What is a finite? Finite is a definite sample size. We have like, finite population. Like say, for example, I'm doing a research on 60 students, so 60 students is a finite number. All the students of GIT, that's a finite number. A definite number is what is finite population. There are different methods for sampling for finite population and as well as infinite population as well. And again, there are different methods. Probabilities. Again, there are different methods of probabilities. So, probability of selecting or representing each and every sample size, each and every member of the population. What does this mean? Let's suppose I have a population of 60 students. How I am choosing the sample size? Suppose say I have a sample size. I want to make a sample size like say 15. Now, out of these 60, does everybody stands an equal chance of being represented as a sample? If the answer is yes, then we can say that this is a probabilistic sampling method. Whenever we give an equal chance of being represented in the sample size, then that sample size can be known as the probabilistic samples. Apart from that, there is another method, and that is known as non-probabilistic sampling. In non-probabilistic sample size, what happens is not every subject has a chance of being selected as a member of sample, and that is known as non-probabilistic methods of sampling. Now we have 4 different factors, and they are playing in each other. They are playing with each other. What are those factors? These factors are the thing. But like say, for example, we have an infinite population, we have a finite population, we have a probabilistic sampling, we have a non-probabilistic sampling, and how do we combine all these 4 different scenarios? And that's what is, and based on this different 4 combinations, like say for example, we do an infinite population, and then we have a probabilistic sampling, and then in that case, what should be the formula to calculate the sample size? We have different formula for doing that. Apart from that, we have, let's suppose, an instance where there is a finite sample, where there is a finite population, and there is one non-probabilistic sampling method, and then in that case, what should be my sample size? So these are different types of sampling and process and sample size, and these are the components of research design. Now, our sampling size has to be beautifully chosen, or has to be technically chosen in a correct manner. We need to choose our sampling method perfectly. Such a sampling method we need to choose in such a way that the error of collecting data is at the minimal. If we can reduce that error of sampling, then we can say that whatever the findings of the research that we are predicting or recommending are valid, because whatever the sample that you have collected, is a complete representation of the population, which means to say that my sampling error is very less, very less. So in all probability, my recommendations will carry a lot of weight. It will carry a lot of weight amongst amongst the companies. So um, we do carry out the data analysis. First, we use the descriptive analytics, and then we use, you know, different types of tests. You know, we can go for different types of data analysis. Say, for example, we can go for uh, an analytics which is descriptive in nature. Let's suppose you want to try out, you want to find out the frequency. Okay, so you want to find out the mean age of the customers. You want to find out the mean income of the customers, and that's what is all about the descriptive analysis. And apart from that, we do two-way analysis and one-way ANOVA, two-way ANOVA. Apart from that, we can do exploratory factor analysis, confirmatory factor analysis. Apart from that, we can do regression. In regression, there are many types of regression. One could be a simple regression. Second could be like hierarchical regression, multinomial or logistic regression. There can be many regressions. That is possible. We can also do cluster analysis in case if you want to do a segmentation. We want to find out which segment is very good for your customer. Very good for your clients. Then in that case, we can do a cluster analysis as well. So basically, what we are trying to do here is we are trying to come up with a plan for data analysis. Okay, so these are some of the components of research design. So research design consists of the basic structure, whether it is exploratory, whether it is descriptive, whether it is prescriptive, whether it is predictive, what sort of a design we are adopting. That is one thing. Second one thing is you define the information that is required. Third thing is you specify the measurement and scaling procedures. And fourth thing is you construct and pre-test a questionnaire or appropriate form for data collection. You want to find out whatever the questionnaire that you have put in force, whether that questionnaire is good enough, whether it is going to hold what, whether it is going to find out what you intend to find out, then that questionnaire will be a valid questionnaire. To find out whether the questionnaire is good enough or not, we do check on validity as well. We have face validity, we have content validity, we have validity based on Conbank alpha is used for understanding the validity as well. So these are the separate steps, appropriate steps which are used for data collection. Then you specify the sampling process and sampling size. Then develop a plan for data analysis. Now, this is how we go forward for doing the research. Okay, thank you.